Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Esport Hub's interview series. My name is Cass Campbell and I will be your host tonight, and also I'll be interviewing one of the best NA casters that I have seen and also Call of Duty analysts. He goes by the name of Revan. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of him, and it's exciting to have him on as well because we have been interviewing players so far, but now we're going to take a look at a different side of Call of Duty. Anyway, how are you, John?
I'm doing great. Actually, today is my 23rd birthday. I guess for you guys, it's the next day ahead, but for me, it's still the 10th, so still in the midst of celebrating that. Thanks for having me on, by the way. I watch your casting all the time in the FPL. It's nice to formally meet you, and I can't wait to get this started.
Awesome, yeah, and happy birthday from the Esport Hub as well. So hopefully we can give you a good birthday present as well. But I want to kick it off with some questions, and I want to talk about Call of Duty Championships, obviously being one of the biggest events that we've had, especially for us from the EU as well. Seeing our EU teams be able to be successful out there for the first time was great for us guys. So let's talk about it a little bit more then. So obviously you were there casting it, you analysed it as well. But what I really want to ask you is, what was your event highlight from Call of Duty Championships?
I think it's the same as many other people, and that would be Cloud9 taking out Optic Gaming. I think that's a match that nobody really saw going in the way of Cloud9, but I mean, once again, Aches finds a way to take down the green wall, and one of the most exciting series of the year. And, you know, this is my first Call of Duty Championships as well. I haven't been able to make it to any of the others, so it was a very fond memory of me, and probably an event I'll never forget for the rest of my life.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people, we've even interviewed players as well, they said the same thing. The Cloud9 Optic series must have been insane to watch. I mean, I don't know if you was casting at the time it was on, or you actually got the chance to watch it. Was you able to?
I was at the XP zone for the entire event. So at the zone, we had like 4 monitors. So we were able to watch like every game as it was going on. But while that match was happening, like you saw the crowd slowly start to go away from the main stage, and everyone started to crowd around the Cloud9 Optic match. And I was even watching some of Momo's vlog from that match itself. And it must have been such an insane atmosphere to be around. Yeah,
definitely. We saw the players getting hyped, obviously, on Cloud9. It must have been so exciting for them to be able to do that. But the other thing I want to go in and talk about as well is, so that's your like highlight moment of Call of Duty Championships. But I mean, apart from that one, is there anything else that really took you by surprise that you really didn't expect to happen at that event?
I mean, going in a different direction with this, I didn't really expect FaZe to place the way they did, especially with how they started the tournament. I mean, day one, they don't really drop the map. They're looking like one of the strongest teams there. And not only that, going into that, you heard so many things about them. You know, they were testing this. They were planning on bringing this out. They were going to ban this. And it seemed like that all the preparation they've done over the course of the year was finally going to pay off. But for some reason, it just didn't work out. Granted, I mean, you take a look at the teams they lost to in the winners bracket side, right? They lose to Team Envious, they lose to Splice, so that was a pretty tough draw. But, you know, as they say, in order to be the best, you got to beat the best. But in a different sense of kind of what took me off guard is FaZe's placement.
Yeah, definitely. Going into Call of Duty Championships post as well, obviously, we always enjoy Rostermania as casters and analysis. It's amazing to sit back and just see these teams go at each other's throats and talk about how that player may not have done so well, so we're dropping you for this team and so on and so forth. And we saw Splice have a little bit of confusion with their roster. 1 second, Josh was dropped from the team, and then he was back on the team. And it really was surprising for us to see. But now a team has been formed over there that surely, and obviously you from the NA side, you watch the NA guys all the time, you must think to yourself, looking at this new roster, that this is a team from the EU that really can cause problems going into the next game. And obviously, like they did, like obviously the players from Black Ops 3 in this game did it. But I will call out the roster if you guys did miss it. The 2 players from Millennium, Madcat and Jerd, which obviously have been in the scene for such a long time. Jerd is that so aggressive, so machine gun player. And then Josh and Bans, obviously Bans, the dabbing king of Call of Duty Championships, really did shine. And obviously is able to get himself a good team. But I want to get your opinion on it though, Revan. You're great at analysis, and I'm going to chuck you with this question. So Madcat, Jerd, Bans and Josh in the same team, surely that looks like a threatening roster to you.
I mean, yeah, on paper, but I mean, there have been lineups in the past where they've been star-studded just like this one, and they've flat out failed. I mean, I feel like the change is pretty idiotic. I mean, I get that there were some issues going on, you know, between the Splice players, but this was really an experience that they could really bond over, and I felt like that they would have been able to get over the hurdles that they faced, you know, between each other and just move past that going into the next game. And it's always tough making a roster change going into a brand new game because nobody's played it. You don't really know how somebody like Jerd is going to perform, for example, in Infinite Warfare, just because, I mean, you haven't seen any competitive gameplay yet. You don't know how these players are going to, you know, transition over to a new game. So I feel like most of these changes are kind of rushed. Granted, I'm very excited to see how this team does. I mean, obviously, these are all top caliber players in the European scene. And, you know, just talking to some of the other North American analysts at some of the other various events, one question always gets asked to us is how come we haven't seen like a dominant EU squad yet that's been able to consistently come over to international events and consistently perform well. And I think all eyes are now going to be on this squad, this new lineup. They have a lot of international experience, especially Bansi had a breakout performance at COD XP, and over the course of Black Ops 3, the one thing, going back to what I just said, not the biggest of fans when it comes to making roster changes going to new games, but I mean, I guess this is a roster that they might just be too good to fail, but I'm excited to see how they do in the upcoming game. Yeah,
and touching on that, I mean, Call of Duty has always been a thing where chemistry is the key to success. So trying to keep a team for a long period of time. You take like Optic, for example. Obviously, I'm going to go into and talk about their champs performance, but Optic have been together for such a long time now. Rarely make drastic roster changes, and that proves in their local events they're able to win quite a few events throughout the year. I know COD XP wasn't one that they would want to forget, let's be honest, but they did do quite well throughout the year as well. It wasn't like they were one of the worst teams from NA, but I think it comes down to obviously high caliber players like Scump and Crimsix, but chemistry is such a key success in Call of Duty, and if you can keep a team together from one game going into the other, surely that should help you when you progress through into Infinite Warfare, like you touched on as well. But while we are on the topic of Optic, and I know the Green Wall fans that do tune into the Esports Hub probably going to put their fingers in their ears at this point because they're sick of hearing Optic choking champs, but I have to get your opinion on it, John. Was it something that you really reckoned that they were going to do again? Did you see, oh yeah, Optic, they're going to go into this one, they're going to get 7 players again, they're just not feeling themselves, or were you on the same bandwagon as a lot of people in the community that thought this is Optic's time?
I mean, I predicted them to win the event. I had them losing in the winner bracket portion of the event and then coming back kind of as a wake-up call and just making a big run through the losers bracket. But I think one thing that really hurt them throughout the year was the ban and protect system. I felt like for the most part, what they brought to the table was very stagnant. And there were times throughout the year where, when I was casting or doing analysis, I'd be able to predict every single thing that they would do and every single thing that would happen. And I get, they're trying to make the game as consistent as possible. But when you're going to the biggest event of the year, you got to figure somebody's going to do something different. And one match I'm going to reference back to is when they faced off against 100 Thieves. I mean, you saw how when 100 Thieves decided to ban out stuff like the Optic sites and they want to keep these things in the game, it really threw Optic off their game. And you kind of figured that one team would just be those guys, right, to bring some of these things out. And, I didn't get a chance to see how the bans and protects played out in the series that they played just because we didn't have that information available to us. But I got to figure somebody had to have done something, and it's very tough for them to prepare for something like that. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but you look at every major tournament that happens across all esports, there's always that one team that makes it run. There's always that one team that causes an upset. Just so happens that this year at COD XP, it was Cloud9 upsetting Optic.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I want to touch upon as well is, I mean, it's great that Optic have such great fan support. They're so big on social media and YouTube. But it also seems to me that these little teams like Cloud9, who are not necessarily showing their gameplay so much, can just take advantage of Optic, can view all their VODs, view their streams, see what they play with. And then when it goes into the biggest event of the year, even though Crimsix stopped Twitch and Scump barely streamed, it's just not enough because you know how they play, you've seen how they play, and obviously when you play against them as well, you can pick up things as well. But Cloud9 kind of reminded me a little bit like that TR roster we saw placing at second at Champs, able to come out of nowhere, nobody really knows what they're going to do, but Aches is the man, he's always at the top dog position for his team. And when he's going up against players like Crimsix, his old teammates, I mean, if it was FaZe, I guess he would probably have done the same thing as well, going up against Clayster. He just loves to rub the salt in the wounds a little bit more when he plays against his ex-teammates, and I'm pretty sure it would have upset Crimsix just that little bit more that it was Aches that was going to give him the finishing blow at Call of Duty Championships. But want to move on anyway into, let's say, for example, Revan, that you were an Optic shoe, so you're an Optic player or you're an Optic manager like Hex maybe. I mean, are you going to look to build a team? Would you say that we try so hard just to win Call of Duty Championships in Infinite Warfare going into the biggest event? Or would you be a team that focuses on all the little events and just tries to make its COD champs? I mean, where is it you're seeing it? Is this the time where Optic now need to focus on that one goal and get what they've been wanting forever?
That's a pretty tough question to answer because I think the guys on Optic Gaming, I think they just want to win everything. So I'm going to say that for Optic Gaming, if I was management, I would still focus on each event, right? I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket and be like, okay, this is the year, this is where you're going to win champs, because then you're just adding that extra amount of pressure, right? You already have a lot from your entire fan base, from social media. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like being an Optic Gaming player, losing like one map at a tournament, and then just looking through your Twitter mentions. I mean, it's just got to be a bit overwhelming at times, but still, you want to approach kind of each event the same, right? Even though COD XP is held on a different pedestal and there's a lot more on the line, you don't necessarily want to change up that repetition, that preparation that you've built up throughout the year, and just kind of ramp up. And just adding to something you brought up before this question, I mean, you look at how they performed right at the beginning stages of the year. Without a doubt, the #1 team. What's the motivation to practice when there was clearly a skill gap between you and the rest of the teams, right? It seems at that point, whenever you're going in and scrimming and going through the repetitions, you're just really helping out the other teams and helping them catch up. And, their play really didn't develop like too much in the respawn game modes over the year. So everybody, like, you could go onto the YouTube videos, as you're saying, and be like, okay, Scump goes here, Formal likes to go here. If we are able to shut down this player, it opens up a lane, and we can really capitalize off that. But going back to the question here, still, if you're Optic Gaming, obviously you want to put a lot of focus over towards, the big event at the end of the year, but you still want to get consistent wins, and you want to get those tournament wins. So I still think you try to focus on winning let's say there are 10 tournaments in the year. If you lose one, you win 9 out of 10. I still think that's a pretty good year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it can equate up to the amount that COD Champs would be for winning just the one event. Obviously, those 9 events. You've got to please the fans as Optic Gaming, because that's what they're all about. It's all about the fan support, the Green Wall, the power of the Green Tribe. But to be honest with you, I just started to debate every single time Call of Duty Champs comes around and I see Optic not make it. I start to think to myself, will I ever in my lifetime of esports see Scump with a ring on his finger? It's crazy. You've got a player that throughout every single Call of Duty has been framed to be literally one of the best players in the whole of the scene, and he's still this far away from grabbing that ring, and it just must be so annoying for Scump every single time he goes back home from Champs and he thinks to himself, one more year, I'm going to make it. But in his eyes, I'm pretty sure eventually he'll be able to make it. But I want to go on to another question, and I want to ask, because obviously we talked about how you're a good analysis and you break down for casting and stuff. So let's say for you then, so from the ANZ region, from the EU region, and the NA region, if you could make a dream team of Call of Duty, who would be your 4 players to choose?
So do I have to pick players one
you can
from
pick
Europe?
4 players from NA or 4 players from EU. You've just got the whole regions to choose from, but you can make a dream team of what you want.
Okay, well, I don't want to be too biased, so I will pick some international players. I think without a doubt you're going to want that explosive player like Scump on your team, but you're also going to want somebody who could complement him and bring something else to the table. So for this, I'm also going to pick up Havoc, who's currently on Complexity. For my reasoning for picking Havoc here is, one, he could complement Scump's fast-paced, aggressive gameplay. They could play off each other in respawn game modes. Plus, he's an absolute stud in Search and Destroy, and he could bring the sniper rifle to the team. From Europe, I think for me it might be a toss-up between Jerd and Bance. I think right now I would go after Bance, just because, one, you get that extra threat, and then, of course, all these players, they could swap between the AR or SMG. So right there you have your deadly trio. Now we need that 4th AR player, and I guess I kind of trapped myself here. I have to go over to the ANZ region, and I think I might go after Dens for this one. I feel like Dens is a very solid assault rifle player, and I think he could drop kills and just complement the other players well. I think that would be my dream team of 4 players if I also had to pick one from Europe and one from ANZ.
Yeah, that sounds like a dominating roster. It would be interesting if that was ever going to be a roster in the future, but I think it would be very difficult to see that one align with itself. But I'm going to talk over now and go over to the questions, because we did tweet out before we got this interview started with you, Revan. We asked the community if they were going to have anything to say or any questions to ask yourself. So we'll kick it off with one from a guy called Typical Nerd. Now, that might be a name you might remember. Yeah. He broke his way into the scene. You saw him obviously alongside Scraps and that lot, but then Scraps pulled away and went over towards that Epsilon team. So hopefully Typical Nerd can make that breakthrough back into Infinite Warfare again. But his question for you anyway, Revan, is what is your take on specialists in Black Ops 3, in particular kinetic armor? Now, I don't know whether Typical Nerd has a little bit of a sore spot for kinetic armor, because he's asked you particularly what you think of kinetic armor. But yeah, what are your input and let's say your opinion on specialists in Black Ops 3?
I think certainly at times they can be gimmicky, and we've seen plays where people are only able to make them because they have these specialists available. But you got to keep in mind that they do add a very exciting part to the game. I mean, you always know that when somebody brings out something like a Tempest or activates something like a kinetic armor, a big play is bound to happen. I think there's certainly things we could do to, maybe tune and tweak them a little bit to make them a little bit more competitive. I really like the idea that Sensor brought out at the very beginning of the game, whereas, everybody starts out with their specialist once and you only have one chance to use it. I feel like that would certainly add a lot. I think the one thing I hate most about the specialists is that you don't necessarily earn all of your meter, right? It kind of builds up over time. I think for something as impactful as a specialist, you really should earn your whole way to that specialist meter. And I mean, A lot of people like to refer them as like superpowers and such. I think one of the other things I hate most is something like a heat wave is like an instant reaction, right? You pop your triggers or your bumpers, and then immediately it kind of pops, and you can't really react and kind of adjust to what's coming at you. But we've certainly also seen times over the years where somebody would bring out like a Tempest and get absolutely nothing done, or pop an active camo, nothing comes from it. I think we've seen a good balance of the playmaking as well as the failed plays from the specialists, and I think it certainly does have a place in competitive Call of Duty, but it's going to be up to developers to tweak and tune to kind of match, the strength of the specialists to the pace of competitive gameplay and what we need. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we've seen one of the things that Call of Duty fans around the world live for is those clutch moments, those clutch S&Ds, and not just S&D, but in hardpoint, 249 and one team needs 1 point and a heat wave comes in and they're able to take it 250 to 249. It really does have that hype factor to Call of Duty, which we love from the days of Black Ops 2 and stuff like that. But also I want to go over to another question now. So we're going to go back to the community. We've had a question from Effect JD. And he has asked, what feature of rules would you like to see in competitive Call of Duty? What feature are rules? So if there's any features or rules that you would like to put in competitive Call of Duty, what would they be?
Can you try to reword that? I'm not sure I understand the question.
For example, if we were to go into, like, we could talk about old game modes and stuff as well. So maybe we could talk like Blitz, for example, on Call of Duty Ghosts. Would you say that you prefer Blitz to Uplink or Uplink to Blitz, or would you rather...
I definitely prefer Uplink over Blitz, but if there's maybe like one game mode I would add into the rule set. I've always liked to see how something like an oddball type of game would play out in competitive play. My reasoning behind that is like there's always a moving objective, and there's always going to be a team on the attack, right? So that forces action to happen. So there's never really going to be a dull moment. And look, you take a look at the maps. Even in Black Ops 3, there's always going to be like one place on the map where a team is going to want to set up, but maybe they can't get to that part. So teams are going to have to adjust and figure out, where they want to set up on different parts of the map. And I feel like that could be definitely like an interesting game mode to watch. No idea how it would play out for Call of Duty. Obviously, we've seen it in other game modes like Halo, for example. But I've always liked modes in Call of Duty that have like that moving neutral objective. So that's why I would go with something like an oddball type.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to ask a question from myself here as well, which is basically, what is if you could pick, you've been casting for a while, but if you could pick the best event that you've ever casted, and what would be the reason behind that?
So the best event I've ever casted, I think I would go with my very first one. It was MLG Dallas 2013 for Black Ops 2. It was the start of the run for the Farico Impact Squad. And, at the time, I was good friends with Killa and Parasite, so of course Karma as well, one of my old teammates. Seeing those guys win was absolutely amazing. Plus, it was my first time. I think I casted really well, and one of the most memorable moments of my casting career happened at that event. It was the CTF raid between Curse and VVV. Clutch Lightning Strike. MLG actually tweeted out like a throwback clip of that not too long ago, but that event for me was just filled with so many memorable moments. I mean, Clayster also, his resurgence onto the scene in that game, bringing the ponytail onto the main stage. I think I would go with that Dallas event.
Awesome. Let's break it down then to our final question. We're going to start to sign this one off, Revan, but we're going to play a little game called the Word Association game. It's a little bit of fun that we have here from the Esports Hub. We've been having it with the interview series we've been continuing so far. And basically the Word Association game, for any guys that are new to it, you may have played it when you was a kid in school. I know a lot of teachers used this one before, but basically I'm going to give Revan a word. So for example, I may give him the word hot, and he will tell me the first word that pops into his head. And now most of the time we've had cold, but you never know, Revan might pull something out of the bands and you might just say something that we don't expect. But anyway, we're going to start off normal, and then we're going to get into the esports scene. So are you ready, Revan?
I think so.
All right, then. Starting it off with hot.
Cold.
Road.
Hog.
Car.
Tire.
Mr. X.
Hair.
Maven.
Dumb.
CWL.
COD.
Esports.
COD.
E-girls.
Me.
Courage.
Funny.
Okay, then there you go, guys. There you go. There was a pretty funny answer there. I didn't expect the E-girls me, but I like that answer. It's one we've had, different one than we've had normally so far. But guys, I have been Cast Campbell for you, the host for tonight, and joining alongside me has been Revan. So guys, if you don't follow him on Twitter already, make sure you go and follow him. We'll make sure we put his Twitter in the
make sure you follow these guys on Twitter too. Let's make sure we grow them.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Revan. Yeah, guys, make sure you give us a follow as well. We're trying to do everything we can for the esports scene. We've always been that scene that's trying to build up the amateurs to the professionals and giving them an opportunity. So we have a few tournaments coming out as well. Monday, the 17th, we're going to have a Call of Duty tournament out as well. We will be casted and live streamed. And also we're going to hopefully have some guest casters alongside Paradox and Jen if they're available. We had them on previously. So guys, make sure you follow there to sign up for that one as well. But that's going to be it for the interview today. Thank you very much, Revan, for coming on. And
thank you very much for having me.
And I wish you the best of luck going into Infinite Warfare. I'm sure you'll kill it alongside the rascals that are Maven, Mr. X, and Courage. I'm pretty sure it's so exciting working along there, and it seems to be a humorous team you've got over there. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. And also, make sure you do subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because we're going to make sure that we post as well and as often as we possibly can. So, guys, my name has been Cass Campbell, joined alongside Revan. It's been a very good interview. Thank you very much for tuning in. Peace out.
Could swear it's been 700 degrees in here since you came in. I could swear that this room has been running out of air, and now it's starting to